Against All Odds family, welcome and thank you once again for joining us. Our guest today is Israel Daniels, and Israel is here to share his Against All Odds story. He has an amazing story, thriving in the face of adversity, and he is here to share it with us. Israel, welcome to Against All Odds.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. Sylvia, it's good to be here. I love the intro. This is amazing, and I'm really excited to be on. And hi everyone, it's good to be here with Sylvia and on Against All Odds.
Thank you so much. I am really excited. I heard you talk about parts of the story when we have been in different courses, when I've been in your business course and things like that. And I'm like, this dude has a story that needs to be told. So I am glad that you're here.
Amen. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, you are a pastor. You're an apostle. You're a business person. You own a few businesses with your beautiful wife, Courtney, whom we all love and adore. Talk to us about what you do right now. Who is
What do I do right now? Other than my first job is being full-time husband to Courtney, as you rightly said. She is beautiful. She's hot, so I'm grateful for that, So I heard your husband say, I heard you say to your husband on that broadcast you did with him that his greatest accomplishment was marrying you, and you agreed. So I think mine was marrying Courtney. So really, it was truly a blessing for me. And so being full-time there, and at the same time being a father to our 3 children. So that's been a blessing. But what do I do in terms of professionally? So I break it down this way. So life is broken into purpose, passion, and profession. So when I look at my purpose is part of serving in the ministry. So I serve as an apostle over Love Movement, which we plant churches in different parts of the world and do a lot of social work also through that. So that's part of my work. So I do that with Courtney. So I serve there. That is the purpose. The essence of my breathing is really doing that kingdom work that we've been called to do. Then when you look at passion, what are we passionate about? So and when I say we, most of everything we do, Courtney and I, we do together. But the things we are passionate about education, human trafficking, medical relief in different parts of the world. So we used to run all of those through Love Movement. And as it began to get really big, we formed another entity in America. It will be called a 501c3 organization, which is a nonprofit. So in some part of the world, they will call that the NGO, non-governmental organization. So we formed one called Eden Global. So we do a lot of work with places where they need education, like Pakistan, Bolivia, Poland, places like that. And now we're doing another project in America, but that's on the passion side of things. But when I look at my profession, I'm a business person in my profession. So our primary business is running human resources consulting. And so I ran that for many years. I've been doing that training and development for many, many years. But in 2019, Courtney also now brought in her company, which is a brand and communication strategy company, and we merged both. So we do a lot of branding, communication strategy for corporate, and her company now, having merged with mine, they do all of the training videos for all of our clients, our HR harassment video, cultural dynamic videos and things like that. Any form of training video that we'll put out for our clients, her company does all of that now, because we are now one company together. So in professionally, so we are into business development consulting, making sure that people get like one-stop shop of whatever they need in terms of business consulting. The other part we haven't added to that is the legal part of our business consulting, but that's coming in the future. So that's run under Havila Global. And of course, being a serial entrepreneur, so we also dabble into different things like real estate, Airbnb side of things, property rental, So then we do some transportation business and things like that in different parts of the world. So on the business side, we get our hands really, really involved in different things, just making sure that we keep all of the lights on at night, and bills are paid. Because some of the passion projects need funding, so you got to get the business going. So in a nutshell, so that's under Havila Global group of companies. So we run that under that, and so there are different segments under Havila Global. Yeah.
Amazing. Totally loved how you grouped it under passion, purpose, and profession. That is, yeah, absolutely. So true. Now, you are Ghanaian, but you were born in Nigeria,
Yes, I was.
where your dad went to seek greener pastures. I don't know what was wrong with Ghana then, but anyway, talk to us about that.
I guess finding greener pastures runs in the family, huh? Because I'm in America now. So this might be a generational thing,
Who knows?
So I believe back in the 70s, what was going on was Nigeria was really booming. I mean, so they came out of the independence in 1960, oil-rich nation. Nigeria was doing really, really great. And so my father had graduated back in Ghana and got an opportunity in the 70s to move to Nigeria. So he moved to Nigeria. My mom moved with him. I believe he went first. I think he went 76. Then she joined him 77. And so things were great. I mean, he got a job there as an accountant, so he was doing really well. Working for an insurance firm in Nigeria at the time. So he was looking to kind of advance his career. So he moved my brother, my mom, and all of that, and they moved down over there because he wanted to kind of explore better opportunities for his career. And that's how I ended up being popped out of Nigeria.
Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I remember this so well. I'm sure it's the 1970s migration, but I believe in the 80s, everybody then a lot of Ghanaians were then kicked back home.
Ghana must go, yeah.
Yes, I know, go sit down.
Yeah,
I remember
right?
that era because I remember my uncle coming back.
Yeah, so if you remember back then, a lot of people went over there. It was such a beautiful place to be. But then when things started happening, what we would call xenophobia now, and South Africa has been highlighted for that. But that happened in Nigeria, where the Ghanaians were now kicked back out. And so people started finding their way across Ilakoji and crossing the borders and making their way back home one way or the other,
Yeah, and now it's funny how history has turned out. Now it's them coming to Ghana now.
Yeah, because Ghana is booming.
Yep. Now, you had a wonderful middle-class lifestyle.
Sure did.
But then things went downhill. Talk to us about what happened there.
Yeah. So one of the things for me is like as a kid, what you look at is every kid at some point you probably looked at your parents and said, man, they don't even know how to parent, or they don't know how to make good decisions, because you're looking at them and you're saying, I wouldn't have made that decision. That was not a smart decision. But as you grow older, you begin to have a better understanding of how life works. What happened was Nigeria, as blessed as Nigeria is, one of the biggest things, most African countries deal with this, but one of the biggest things in Nigeria is fraud and it's embezzlement. And it's not a new thing. It's been around for a while. For my father, he didn't grow up in that system, or he didn't understand how that works. But the way we were living, we were really living comfortably on his paycheck. Life was good. We had a butler, a cook, a private chef. People would live in the back of your house. A gardener would take care of the garden, and cars in the house. We were okay. We did. My brother was in private school, and everybody was like really chilling. Until one day, my father came home and said, no, we have to move out of this house and things like that. He lost his job. So of course, as a kid, and African dads, it's not like they come home and say, everybody gather around, it's family time. I just lost my job today. I heard through the grapevine, which is my mother, that he had lost his job, but he never told us why. So I'm sitting there trying to figure it out, like, okay, so our life is about to go through this roller coaster, which is what I later figured out we were about to experience, because how bad can it be? You lost your job, get another one, right? So, and then we move on with our lives. But it wasn't that simple. So he lost his job because it was auditing a particular account that had lost about 300 million naira. They lost a lot of money, and so it was auditing where the money went. So then he found, so forensic accounting and things like that, he found the money, and he figured out the people that took it and embezzled it. So they came to him and they said, we're going to give you a cut. If you get this cut, then everything goes away. And him being him and not understanding the nature of the beast or the system in which he lived in, he was like, I'm not taking any of that. He wasn't a Christian. As a matter of fact, he was a Muslim. He wasn't saved. He wasn't like, oh, Jesus was speaking to him or he had divine protection. It was all about ethics and integrity for him. So he said, no, I won't do that. So he was a whistleblower without protection. So he blew the whistle. He got fired for it, and they blocked him. It's called when they blacklist you, because it's like all of the big firms are all connected. Their friends talk to friends, and him having not grown up in Nigeria, he didn't have a lot of connections and friendship that he had built over the years. He was new to the country, and that was the end of his career at that level. He ended up doing a few other things. As we were growing up, he worked as an accountant in one company, at another company, but it was never the same. And he was never able to capture. I think it's sad when you actually think about it. From a man's perspective, it wasn't really able to capture his essence as a man. Again, because the light I saw in him when he was doing all of that, I think being fired and the way he was, I think it does that to a person and it breaks a person, and I think that broke him. But that's a different story.
Wow, I can only imagine that couldn't have been easy. Now, how low did things get?
Wow, how low did things get? Hey, things got really, really low because we lost everything. I just remember things started disappearing one by one, because no matter how much money you have in savings, you have to keep bringing in money in order to multiply, or you have to keep doing something that brings in revenue. So if you have a lot of expenditures without any income, then you're going to have a deficit. So what happened was we kept spending, we kept living our lives, and then a time came where they did something in Lagos where it was eminent domain law. They needed to use the property or the land in a particular area to be zoned for government used. So he lost his property there, also lost the home. So we ended up in what we would call a face me and face you house. So we lived in our own house. We had no neighbor. We were not in a compound. We were all by ourselves. We had our own gate, access gate man opening the gate when you're coming home. So we went to that, from that to having almost about 20 something different neighbors to use the toilet with. One toilet. And it wasn't a flushing toilet. It was a hole in the ground, when like literal hole in the ground. And we all had to wait for the next person to finish for you to go. We went from being in good schools, having tutors, to having to go to public school where when it rained, the teachers were nowhere to be found, and it rained right into your classroom because there were no windows. So our reality went from literally from riches to rags. They always say from rags to riches. We had from riches into rags, and it became secondhand clothing. It became he was defeated as a man, so he didn't really go out. At least that was my perspective then. Looking at it then as a child, I was like, man, I don't want to be that man. And so my mom, who was a housewife, had to step out. A stay-at-home mom. She didn't have any reason to work. She was, dad was balling, mom was chilling, so that was the story. But then dad was chilling and mom had to step in. And so she started to work and things like that. And that was the beginning. We never made it out of no, we never. It's like you don't think about these things until you have to think about them or talk about them. We never really made it out of that stuff, because he was stuck in there. I made it out, but that's a different part of this story. But the time I was growing up, looking for my dad to kind of snap out of it, like, when is he going to get us out of this mess? When are we going to turn the corner? That never happened. My mom created a steady Eddie situation in which we were able to eat every morning, eat every lunch hour, and have dinner. But we lived in that kind of environment until something shifted for me later on. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
Wow. What did that do to you as a young boy in terms of your mind, maybe for you and your siblings, but if you can't talk for your siblings, maybe just to you? What does that do to you?
I think for me personally, it changed me and defined me at the same time.
Right.
And so I'll use my brother and myself, my older brother and myself, to just kind of look at how people reacted to it. My brother was really hurt by everything. I believe it broke him, and even into manhood as he grew older, because he was there first. He was, in a crowd, they moved together. He saw all of their life. I mean, even pictures when we were growing up, I would look at some of the things they did with him before I even came, to the scene. He was really, really rooted in the lifestyle.
Right.
So then it shook him, going from this high and going low. And it kind of into adolescence, into adulthood, it defined him a bit. But for me, I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, are you kidding me? So this is what life is now. I mean, we would wake up, there was smells everywhere. Somebody pooped, poop overflow. I mean, it was just a mess, living in a disgusting environment. And I used to wake up in the morning and looking at it like, this cannot be what my entire life would look like. So as a child, I decided I was going to take matters into my hands, because I felt like my dad was not doing enough, because he was a very nice guy, but he would wake up in the morning and go back to sleep. So for me, I just didn't understand that. If we're in trouble, I don't think you wake up and go back to sleep is the way to go, while your wife is sitting there with a kerosene and stove and trying to cook, and so that she could sell the food, so for us to make a living. So for me, I began to do little things. So I would, like, for instance, go into the marketplaces and see what tomato was about to go when they begin to become rotten. Before they go rotten, they drop the prices on them. So I will go negotiate prices, and I will buy them, then take them to those people that will blend them for you. Then they blend them, I put them in a little bag and sell them fresh, because you can see them, because it's already been blended. Then if I can sell it, I will boil it up and put it in somebody's freezer, because we didn't have a fridge. Something happened to the cylinder of the freezer and the refrigerator. I still remember it, and they needed to top up the gas in it, like the Freon, the air thing in the cylinder, and we couldn't afford it. So we used the refrigerator for storage, because we couldn't cool anything in it. But so I started to sell that. Then I would wash people's cars in the neighborhood. So like people who had cars, I would go to them on Saturday morning. Hey, can I wash your car? It was for like 50 cents per car. So like, I will wash their cars. I'll get, I don't know, you remember Omo or Ariel,
I
I'll
remember Omo. We
bucket,
have
get a
that
rag
too.
and start washing the cars. One neighbor at a time who said yes to it. Then they will give me my little 50 cents. So I was able to gather that. And the goal for me was, how do you reduce the pressure on my mother?
Hmm.
If I take myself, so the first step was, let me remove myself from the number of mouths she had to feed. So if
Hmm.
I could take care of myself, then she doesn't have to worry about me.
Right.
So as early as 8, 9, I was already kind of walking and taking care of myself. If you give me a comic book, I will sell it to everyone in school page by page. I will cut it out with the scissors and sell it page by page. So that way I got more money for it and more people could afford to buy it, as opposed to trying to sell a whole comic book. So it
Hmm.
was, how do I stretch every resource I had? And I think for me, it helped me become industrious,
Hmm.
innovative in my thinking, that I could sit there and say, I'm having a bad childhood right now. I'm a victim of my upbringing and my parents' inability to snap out. Or look at it differently and say, what could I do? But I'm looking back now
Hmm.
at that boy at the time. I'm like, man, how did you figure that out?
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, because it's like you look back, you're like, because I have a kid that's 10. He's very smart. He's computer smart. He's all of that smart, business smart. But I look at his street cred. I'm like, I don't think it would last one day on the street, man, if I throw him over there. Because so I use that as reference for myself and say, man, I was his age at some point, and I had to fend for myself.
Right.
You, you know,
Right.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but that was my reality.
Hmm.
And how did I, step into that where I was able to do that? It
Yeah.
could only be God, and that's. But this is called against all odds. Those were the odds stacked up against me.
Hmm.
Look, man, you have to go to school and work after that because education is everything. It
Hmm.
was funny to me because my dad used to say, I might not be able to give you anything in this world, but I'm going to give you an education. I'm like, a poor one. Because, and I had a mouth on me, I'm like, yeah, a very bad education. And I would say things like that,
Oh wow.
get a whooping for it, but I still said it, like a terrible education. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. You
But,
deserve the spanking.
yeah, I know, right? So that was that. I did manual job. Like I would work with bricklayers to help them. I started to learn how to make shoes. Like a shoemaker. Like you when people's shoe got broken or something like that. How do you fix it for them? I think I figured how to do that about 10, and I would get like an equivalent of about 50 to 75 cents to $1 for fixing somebody's shoes and things like that. And
Wow.
just to put it in perspective for people. And so I did that, figured it out very quickly, and people were always breaking their shoes. So that was steady income after school. I set up in front of the house and I would do that. And people in the
Now, when we talk about repairing shoes in Africa, it's not the same, right? Because
uh,
most shoes are dusty and dirty.
messed
I just
up.
want to give people a perspective of what it's what it is like. This photo kind of gives
Yeah,
you.
that's it. That's a clear perspective, and I like this smile on his face because it looks like he's doing it with joy, and I enjoy doing it. I don't know how to do it anymore, but 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 yes, they were nasty shoes that have been through the worst conditions,
Right.
crazy areas. They will come in. Oh, I need the sole of my shoes replaced. You look at the shoes they've put it in poop and all kind of craziness,
Yeah.
and we don't have gloves. It's like, man, oh my
Mhm.
God, let's put some gloves on. Yeah, that was no good.
You want the money, you just get on with it,
You
basically.
get on with it. You eat one chair when you're done, or or mom has made some dakunu. You try that, and you move from there. But that was the reality. But that helped me subsidize whatever my mom was doing, and to be able to support a little bit.
Yeah.
Then, so I moved from that when I was in high school, which secondary school.
Mhm.
I began to work as a bus conductor, and
That job changed your life.
yeah,
How did you get the job, and how did it all come about? And you can tell us the story about how it changed your life.
yeah. I have to say this, that I don't even think this moment would be happening right now if it wasn't for that job. Like, I
Mm.
wouldn't be here talking to you right now,
Mm.
because that job was the catalyst that changed everything for me. It was the summer, and I mean, every month is summer in Africa. It's always hot,
Yeah.
but but it was that long vacation you get in school. It's like
Right.
a 3 month break. So
Mhm.
it's summer break, and I decided that summer I needed to make more money because my mom worked in the school system, and so school was out. She serviced food. So the 3 months where you won't be servicing food, she serviced the cafeteria. So if she wasn't servicing food, then we couldn't really eat. So I
Mm.
figured I needed to make more money that summer.
Right.
So one of the easiest way to make money, I mean, it's not easy. One of the most dangerous ways to make more money is being a bus conductor. There's a guy in my in the neighborhood who I would see him ply the route and kind of walk every evening. So I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm off the holiday. If your bus conductor doesn't show up one day, or you need me to step in for him, I'll be more than happy to cover." My parents didn't know. As bad as things were for us, I don't think they would have allowed me, and they didn't. They were very upset when they found out, because
Mm.
being a bus conductor isn't something that you want to bring on your family's reputation, or bring. It was considered one of the worst jobs you could do. It was almost like you are a street kid. you know
Right. Give
Normally,
us visual, give us some pics. I'll show a photo, but give us some context about what you did as a
so,
bus conductor
being a bus conductor,
before people think it's like sitting on the London bus and just,
no, this ain't no
collecting.
London bus. So so
Yeah.
so now I have to hang on the side of that bus.
That's the photo.
Yeah, I have to hang on the side of the bus, hold the
Mm.
money in my hand, and begin to shout the next route, and begin to call in the customers to come. So I
Mm.
was customer service and customer acquisition at the same time. I have to acquire the customer, shout like "Pero, pero, pero," just start screaming and
Mhm.
to come. It's like if you're gonna be a public speaker, that's a good place to start. So I'll be calling them. Then I have to call each bus stop. So once the people got on the buses, then I have to find out from them who is stopping next. So that's project management right there. It's like, hey, so who's stopping at the next bus stop and things like that. So I have to alert the driver that, hey, we need to stop at this bus stop. Then when we get to that next bus stop, I have to spend about 60 seconds trying to call in more passengers to
Mhm.
make up for the seat that the person just alighted from.
Right.
And also at the same time, I'm competing with all of the other buses going that route, because it's first come, first serve. So I
Right.
have to make sure that I get to the station before them, so I can get all the people waiting.
Yeah.
So I'm competing, I'm calculating, and I'm not wasting any time. So before we get to the bus stop, I have to hang on the outside to scope the area to make sure, do I see anybody walking? It's like a surveillance of the area. Do
Uh-huh.
I see a potential customer crossing from the other side of the road? It was a dangerous job, but it was a rewarding job. But I did it with a man who he did it part time. He already had a business in the morning, and in the evening, he would take his bus out. So I asked him that day, and for some reason, his regular conductor did not show up the same day I asked him.
Wow.
So he came back to my house and he said, hey, if you're still interested, I'm going from about 4 p.m. till 11 p.m. at night. I was like, I'm game. So it was my first time. Then when the bus starts moving, you start running after it. You have to chase it and get on it and things like that, and just hang on the side of it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen many people fall to their death. They try to put their feet the wrong way, mm-hmm. and they slip, and that's the end of them. Right. I did that job for about a year and a half. At some point, it wasn't the money anymore; it was the relationship with the guy. Mm. So what happened was, this person happens to be Christian. I was Muslim at the time. I prayed 5 times a day. When I started working for him, I would miss two of my evening prayers, so I would pray them later after work at night. So because of the time of my work, so I prayed 5 times a day. And he was a very strong Christian. One of those Christians who evangelized you, who will preach to you every day. He was one of them. It's like, oh, Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you. I'm like, leave me alone. Oh, repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like Christians at all. I couldn't stand them because most Christians in Africa, they either talked about heaven or hell. It's like, oh, if you do not do this, you're going to burn. If you do not do, I'm like, yeah, all of us are going to burn, so I'll see you there. So so I was, but at the same time, I was praying 5 times a day, but I was unhappy. Something was missing in my heart, and I felt lost and angry a lot. I really had a lot of anger and resentment. And later on, I figured out it was because of my father. Because I didn't realize why I was that angry, because I was making good money, I was okay, but I was still very, very angry. Then I took it to God, and I heard nothing back. So pray 5 times a day, you do all of your recitation. I was being trained and groomed to be one of the imams in the area and things like that, just developing. But this man kept inviting me to church. He would say, oh, I want you to come to church with me. And then I would say, no. I want you to come to church with me. And then I would say, no. So he got really clever about it. And he said, oh, over the next 3 days, there's a conference going on in my church, but you don't have to come in. I will go with you. You just sit in the parking lot in the van. Then when I'm done, we will start plying the route right from there, because there'll be many people coming out of church that will need transportation. I'm like, man, smart guy, let's do it. So now I'm in the parking lot. I'm fine with that. We're gonna make money, right? So we finish this, we make money. So I'm sitting in the parking lot waiting, and literally, how it is in Africa. There's a megaphone loudspeaker in the parking lot, so I could hear the whole preaching. I'm like, I know I'm not inside, but I hear everything. Right. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening, but the preaching was different. It was not repent and you will die, or you go to hell if you don't do this. It was about safety. It was about security. And this particular day, the pastor was preaching from the book of Psalm 91, and it was just, it ministered so much to me, but I didn't want to admit to it when it came back. So we did the route. I was thinking about it, thinking about the word. I was like, man, that's so different from Islam. That's so different from the kind of scripture union preaching, that I've heard all this while. So I'm processing through that. And so I said to him the next day, I said, can I come inside today? He said, you want to come in? I said, yeah. I was listening yesterday. I want to come see. Because people were shouting a lot. It is in Africa. Amen, amen. I'm like, I want to see what it looks like on the inside. I'd never been inside of a church, So I went in. The auditorium was about 3,000 people. There was no room for me to go in. So I sat in the canopy, and they were preaching again, part 2 from Psalm 91, security in the secret place. It was crazy. The message was I still remember it. Until you are saved, you are not safe. That was one of the phrases there. Until you are saved, you are not safe. Your safety is in your salvation, and your salvation is in Him. So by coming into that, you come into safety. I'm like, wow, this God keeps people safe. I don't feel safe. I'm angry and all of that. I remember what in Christianity they call it the altar call. So they did the altar call. If you want to come get saved, come get saved. I don't know what they were doing. I just knew that I was standing in front there, and the pastor was saying, "Say these words after me," and that's how I became a Christian, and that's how I opened another chapter of stress for myself in my family, for all kind of, because it was also a disgrace to the family that I became a Christian and converted from Islam. And that's a different story, where one of the sheikhs or the imam of the area who had influence over my father came to the house. That the next step was for them to kill me.
Oh.
Because not only was I a disgrace to my family, I was also a bad influence to the young kids in the neighborhood, because they all knew me as someone who was coming up in the local mosque as a leader that's been trained to take over. Because I did call to prayer. So call to prayer is when you stand and start shouting and call everyone to come into prayer. In school, I was already leading some of the Friday prayers called Jumat. So I was already doing that. So I was on track. So for me to kind of deviate and go into Islam Christianity, it was not just a family issue, it was a community issue. Wow. So the man came to the house and was speaking to my father about how to kill me. And so I overheard them. Initially, I was like, what are they talking about? So I pressed in a little bit closer. I'm like, they're trying to kill me. So I took off. And this is the crazy part. I haven't returned home since then, because I left home that day and went to live with the man I worked for.
Wow.
And from there, one door opened, another door opened, and I left to move to America. So I never returned back to that house. I went to visit them once. Then the Lord opened the door for me to be able to build them another house. So I never really returned to that house ever. I took off that day, and that was the end of it.
How old were you?
I was 16 at that time, 16 going 17. So I left home about 16 and a half, 17-ish, and went to stay with that guy. It was still in the same neighborhood, but at least I wasn't at home, and I couldn't trust to eat anything, because what the guy told them was, you take the acid water from the battery, then you just, then you put it in my water, then I just drink it and die. Of course, 16, 17, you hear that, you're thinking, I'm not drinking your water. I'm not eating your food. I'm not coming near you. I'm not living in your house. I'm not doing none of that. Because my father was really not happy with me being saved. So every time I went to church, those wires, like electrical wires, the cable. He would whoop me every time I would go to church, because I had to sneak out of the house to run to church. So that was already a problem, that I was saved, but killing me was not an option. So I'm like, I'm out, So at least I endured the beating.
Wow.
But I couldn't take the killing. So then I was out. So I lived with my my uncle, the guy that kind of led me or took me to church. Wow. So I lived with him for a little bit. Then I went to live with another family. Then after that, then I went to America.
Talk to us about how you ended up in America.
Wow. So what happened was, I remember, as you come towards the end of secondary school,
Mm.
Those people who have the money and the resources, they go to university in Africa. Some now people go to Legon, people go to Central, like what's his name, Mensa Otabil's
Central
University.
University.
And so people now, there are many options, but a lot of people spread around in Africa. Some people go to UNISA, the really ballers, they go to England, the ones that are balling on the next level who don't have cousins in Africa, in England, they go to America, and so then there's the rest of us,
Trying to make it.
Then there's the rest of us. We probably upgrade from bus conductor to driver, or then driver to union leader, and that was my path, until I met Jesus. And I think Jesus changed everything for me, because I began to dream drift differently, in looking at life differently. Like, Christianity is not a get out of jail, free card. Christianity gives you the opportunity to view life from God's perspective. And so for me, that was what it did for me. I'm like, okay, look, I am in this environment, bro. I'm not of this environment. So what kind of dreams do I have for myself? So, of course, all of us in West Africa, we had to take that WAEC, exam. Then some of y'all had to do the A levels and Cambridge stuff, but that was not our department. Our department was different. You got a job at the factory called Wahum or Towers, where they make pots, So I'm thinking, okay, what's the path for me now that I'm in Christ? Because all things are passed away. And I'm very literal, because Islam was very literal. So the way I saw Christianity was, if it's in the Bible, all things are gone. I need a new vision for my life.
Right.
So one day I was praying, and I saw myself literally like almost like a daydream in a room. I was standing and addressing Caucasians, Hispanic. There were different diversity in the room. And I heard in my spirit about a time will come that you will be in the center of the world, from where you will reach every nation of the earth. And I was like, center of the world, what's that? So it was like center of influence. It's America. I was like, man, that's beautiful. I don't know anybody there. And if you were saying London, all of us have cousins in London or friends in London. If you're from West Africa, you have somebody in London.
Yeah.
Okay, somewhere. I'm like, okay, I don't know anybody in America. So at the end of the day, I realized I needed to go to school in America. So when the opportunity came to go to school in Nigeria, I turned it down. Now my mother lost it, because we couldn't even afford that. So of course we couldn't afford to go to school in Nigeria to pay for that. Then I'm saying, no, I'm not going. I actually said, literally, I said, that's not for me. I have bigger plans. I'm going to America.
Joe, they must have looked at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, no, they really thought I was either on something, or Christianity messed up my mind even further, because that didn't make any sense. There was no reference point for it. No one in my whole bloodline had done it. So where would you get that done? If they sold everything they owned, including themselves, they wouldn't be able to pay for it.
Right.
So I started to research it. And I started to research it. I found out they were right. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't pay for it. I didn't know anyone that could pay for it. So what I did was, instead of me going, I figured out how to go, and started a business to help other people go who could go. So I knew how to go, but I didn't know how to pay. I didn't have the money to pay for it. Many people had the money to pay for it, but they didn't know how to do all the paperwork, how to register for SAT, test of English as a foreign language, and all of that. So I started doing that. I wrote to ETS, Education Testing Services in New Jersey, and to send me all of the brochures to be able to register people. I thought it was a joke. One day, FedEx shows up with boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. I was like, whoa, what is this? America answered. And I started a business. So I was doing education consulting. That's what I called it. If you wanted to go abroad, I will help you register. I will do all of those things. So basically, you find a friend in America who has a card, or in England who has a Visa or MasterCard. You put the money in their account. They help me with the registration for the client, and I got a premium. Then after a while, I was able to add teachers, because if you want to take the test, let's train you on and prepare you for the exams. So we prepare them for SAT, ACT, and test of English as a foreign language. So here was I, high school graduate, no degree, but I had 8 graduates working for me. I had 1 assistant, and they would teach all of the classes. They would do all of those things. They were on salary. And so the business began to boom. God was really good. And one day, one of my colleagues, who was also my friend, or was my friend, is going to be with the Lord now, he decided to apply to a school for me, just as a joke.
Yeah.
So he applied for me in America and applied for himself too. I was busy making money. I didn't want to go to school no more. I'm like, I'm good now. So my philosophy was, all those people who go to school, they end up coming to work for someone like me. I'm fine. What do I need the education for? Because I read a lot of books. I've always read a lot. So I said, no, I'm not going to school. So he did it anyway. And the admission came. Also FedEx delivered the admission letter.
Wow.
And then I said, well, this is a sign. So what happened was, in Nigeria, I wanted to boost the business and expand into Abuja, then expand into Accra. So we came to Accra, we surveyed things, we looked at things like, okay, we're going to come in here, then we're going to go into Abuja. So I went into Abuja, found a building and all of that, and said, we're going to do this. So I had to do a big seminar to drive in more clients to be able to get money to expand. So I invited the TV station and they showed up. So this was in November. I invited the TV station showed up, and I did a speech, and after the speech, I came out, and the guy from the TV station for the 9 o'clock news was waiting for me. He turned on the camera, put the microphone in front of me, and he asked me a question. He said, aren't you like a physician who can not heal himself? I said, what do you mean? He said, you're helping other people go abroad, but you've never been yourself. Wow. He said, is it because your formula doesn't work? So this is November. So I'm standing there and I'm a faith guy, I have no response. The integrity of my business is being questioned. So I'm freaking out a little bit, but he doesn't know that. I looked at him. I'm a bit calmer now. The older you get, the more chilled you are. But I used to have so much zeal, so much, whoa, let's go, So I looked at him. I said, I want you to pay attention to me very carefully. I said, I have never been to an embassy that would deny me, and there would never be an embassy in this world that will ever deny me a visa. It's impossible. I said, we are in November now. I said, by this time, January, I will not be in this country.
Oh my God.
Well, that was life. My godmother, who was also in that same building, she was there earlier because I had to stay there to clean up and make sure that everything was taken care of. We had the Sheraton Towers in Lagos. And we're like, and in Lagos at that time, that was the biggest hotel even till now, it's still one of the biggest hotels in Nigeria. All of the diplomats stay there and all that. I booked it for my event. I wasn't even 20. Booked it for my event. So big dignitaries, a lot of people were there. So I'm standing there thinking, she was now already at home watching television and watching me there, saying that crazy stuff. I go home because at that time I was staying with them. She goes, you live in the country? I was like, it's news to me. So I was like, I do know until that moment. So yeah, so I applied for a US visa and did all of that, went through the process, got approved. And that was also a test of faith because I had said, no embassies ever denied me. And the first one would not happen in my lifetime. And so, of course, I'm standing there for the first time going through the US embassy. I've taught the formula. I've trained a lot of people. I've coached people. did a mock interview session with different people, and you know how they deny people in Africa.
Yeah.
Deny. It's like 99 out of 100 gets denied, one gets picked, then you just go. So I'm like, ish, this is going to be interesting. So I went to the interview, and it was interesting. God did it. It was easy, and of course, I've never been denied a visa. Now 55 countries later, I've been to 55 countries. We do business in many countries. We do ministry work in many countries. Or it started with moments like that, humble moments like that, where your faith is tested, your resolve is tested, and you're like, you know what, that's another odd, because it would have broken my business. And so I ended up giving the business to the guy who did my application. He never went to America.
Oh.
Because he didn't get the visa, even though he did our paperwork. It was just for me. Because if he hadn't done that, and I had said at the interview that, but it would have been impossible, because I wouldn't have had an admission for the spring, because then I'll wait for the summer. Then so everything worked out. And I bought the ticket on Christmas Day. I will never forget it. In a Ghana must go bag, I took the money to the airport to pay. You know those Ghana must go bags?
I know Ghana must go back.
Yeah. So the money came from me helping other people go.
Wow.
And that's how I was able to pay my own ticket, my own way to go to America. And America now became the catalyst and that's why I'm very passionate about this country. I love America. I believe America is whatever you make it. The opportunities are there for everyone to be able to explore. As I was preparing for this, I kept thinking about, have I even done the best I could have done in this country with all that is being given here? So America is such a blessed country. So for me, that was part of my story. And then God used that while I was in school. I was able to make enough money to be able to build a house for my parents while I was still working on my master's and things like that. Move them out of Face Me and Face You. And move them
Amen to that.
Sharing a toilet with 20 people. Imagine during COVID having to do that, you know? So from then moved to America, started a consulting business, because I'm better at consulting than anything else. I don't like selling product. Every time I tried, I like
I want to go back to you coming into America, because the odds didn't stop there. You arrive here in winter.
I did.
To the land paved with gold. You're just expecting everything to go according to plan, but it didn't quite work out that way. Not when you arrived.
No, when I arrived, bless his heart, somebody was supposed to meet me at the airport at JFK. He never showed up. So from the moment I landed at JFK, remember, I'd never been to America, never been anywhere other than Africa. So I'm in this cold weather. I'm freaked out. I went outside of JFK to see if he was there and just couldn't find me. My ear froze up. I dropped my bag because I'd never been in snow. I dropped my bag outside of the airport, ran back in, then remember my bag was outside, and I ran back to go grab it because I'm like, man, what is this thing? My ears are frozen up. I go inside, I start to make phone calls. He never showed up. So then I heard a guy talking on the phone. You know, sometimes Nigerians be talking a bit loud, so they're, I am coming to Maryland now. I said, this guy's going to Maryland. So I asked him if I could use his phone. So I used his phone to call one of my friends in Maryland. And I said to him, I'm stuck in New York because the person that was supposed to meet me at the airport never showed up. I said, so I'm stuck here. I said, can you tell me how to come to you? I can come over to you for 2 days, then regroup. So he said, no, you can come. So as I'm talking to him, the guy on the other side, whose phone I'm using, said, oh, no, You want to go to Maryland? I said, I'm driving to Maryland. I'm driving by myself to Maryland.
Oh,
I
wow.
said, 4 hours drive is going to be boring. I can take you. So he gets on the phone with my friend and said, hey, give me your address. I'll bring him by your house.
Oh,
Man, he
wow.
put me in this Lexus SUV. I'm like, whoa.
Ooh, I've
We
arrived.
stop by McDonald's. Life is good. So first odd against me was at JFK Airport. Second odd was how do I get to Maryland? Then God had someone right there. So I got to Maryland, and I'm trying to now get from Maryland to Oklahoma, where my school was.
Right.
So we looked online to be able to buy a ticket. We couldn't find a good cheap ticket. Actually, no, online. No, we were calling. You get the phone book, 1-800 number. We're calling them all, and no fly. It was too expensive, $1,200. This I had some pounds and I had some dollars. So I ended up buying something called Greyhound Bus. Now, if you're in America and you've been on the Greyhound because you wanted to, more power to you. If you're coming from Africa and you get on the Greyhound, a bus is a bus until you start figuring out that this is a crazy ride. So I got on the bus from Maryland all the way to Oklahoma. It was a 2.5 days trip
Wow.
because they had to stop a lot. They go slow. But it was all kind of freak show on the bus, different weird things going on. Some people come in already drunk. Some people come in high like a kite. It was just a crazy experience.
Wow.
And it's all new to me. I'm sitting like this. Jesus. Oh, shit up, baba. Praying, like, man, let me make it. So now I knew that when I got to Oklahoma City, there will be a bus there to pick me up and take me to school. Then I would check in. But what happened was I left Maryland on Wednesday, I think. I got to Oklahoma at 5:30 p.m. on Friday.
Wow.
The last route for the bus to school, the shuttle to school, was about 4 p.m. that day.
Oh.
I missed it. It was and the next one was on Monday morning at 8.
Wow.
So now God said, I'm taking you to America. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. You're going to reach the nations. I ended up homeless on my arrival to Oklahoma. I was at that bus station for 3 days from Friday night. Imagine the movie Terminal being stuck at the airport. Being stuck at the airport is better than being stuck at Greyhound Bus Station. Believe me, it's in the middle of downtown, crazy. I got all kind of propositions for food. If you do this, I'll give you food. If you do that, I was like, man, this place is weird. It was all new to me. I slept there. I did not eat for 3 days. I slept at our bus station in the same clothes for 3 days. Nobody knew where I was for 3 days. I couldn't make phone calls. I tried to buy stuff with the pounds I had left because I used the dollars to pay for the bus. It was like $100 and some to go. I paid for that, but the pounds I had, they wouldn't accept it. They thought I was crazy. So I had to wait till Monday morning to go into bank one and change the money into dollars to be able to buy some McDonald's. No wonder I still don't like fast food. I can't stand it. I ate that day. I almost passed out because I hadn't eaten for 3 days. So my journey started there. Then from there, I went into campus where my first job. Remember, in Africa, I ran my own company. Now I'm in America. I'm washing dishes, and my boss is a high school student. So I was a dishwasher in the cafeteria. That was my first job in America. So
and look where you are now. Look where you are now, doing your own business consulting. Now, I know that your experience and your upbringing has pushed you and shaped you to the man that you are now. And I know you're bringing up your kids in the same way. I remember us having a conversation and you're like, I have tasted poor. I never ever want to go back there, and I don't want my children to ever go back there. They are running their own business now. You have young children. I know you have, a teenager and 2 young ones. What do they do for business?
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So my 18-year-old, she does cosmetics. So she runs Esther Cosmetics. You can find it on Big Cartel. So go check that out. So she has some product. So she does makeup and lip glosses and things like that. So she runs her own business in that area. Then our son Jedi, he does graphic designs and things like that. So and t-shirt design. So he buys t-shirts. I'm not going to tell you where he buys the t-shirts from. He buys them cheap. Then he does the design on them, then tries to sell them and things like that.
Wow.
So he's very good, graphically good. He does video editing and things like that. And he does really good work. There were some things he did in editing that I'm like, I don't even know that was possible. He started to do flyers and he started to do video loops before phones could even do it. And because he would just do it and rewind again and redo something and put them together. It was confusing to me how he did that, but it was creative. I'm like, how is he doing that stuff?
Wow.
Well, so he does that. And of course, Levi, he's just a prophet. He's chilling. So he's the only one. So he's the baby of the house. He's 8 now, still growing. And so, but he's musically genius. He focuses on sound. So I see him doing some producing stuff in the future and on the business path. But so all of them are entrepreneurial and they're also very creative. And so we're grateful for that.
Amazing, amazing. Now we're bringing this interview to an end. I have loved every bit of it. I just want you to address a young boy, a young Israel Daniel sitting in Africa and listening to you and thinking, if only I could get the opportunity to go to America like he has and like many others have, then, I will succeed or then I will be made. What have you got to say to them?
Well, young Israel Daniel sitting in Africa, the first thing I'll say to you is it's time to get up. It's time to get up. And when you look at it, when you look at the entirety of the story, it's not about going abroad, it's about hearing from above. So I always try to differentiate between both because sometimes people think they have to go to abroad in order to be successful. But sometimes your success is in where you are. So for me, I started out in Africa. I started to build my businesses in Africa. I laid the foundation in Africa. I learned all of those things in Africa, and I was now able to take it from Africa to America to be able to now do that. So I would say your path might be different from my path. So whatever your path is, I know if God wants to take you abroad, he will. So the most important thing is to go above. Not abroad. Say, God, what are you saying? What do you have for me? What do you want to do? So my prayer for you, my encouragement for you is to find who you are in God first and hear what he has, because everyone's journey, because so one day we will be able to sit here and listen to your own story and watch your own story. We'll be able to see it in magazines or newspapers, how God took you from where you are now to where he's established you. I have many friends who are doing way better than me, who never left. And I have some friends who are not doing as good. It's all about what your path is, what your journey is. So the success is not abroad, it's from above. It's whatever God wants to do with you. So find him, then you'll find your path in him. And that will be my message for a young Israel in Africa.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. I have a last question for you.
Okay.
And this is like a suicide note.
Side note. Let's do it.
Nigerian jollof versus Ghanaian jollof.
I can't do this. I can't do this because all my Nigerian family are going to start stoning me. All my Ghanaian family are going to start stoning me. So this is what I'm going to say. You put Nigerian jollof on one side, you put Ghanaian jollof on one side, then you just mix them all together. Then you can't tell which jollof, Ghanaian jollof, which jollof you are actually eating, because Ghanaian jollof, but which jollof is better. But since my mother was the one that introduced me to jollof, so kudos to my mother. So I'm going Ghanaian jollof. And if you have any qualms with that, I will give you a number. Are you ready? +233. No, no, I won't do that. She's like, who's calling me? So Ghanaian love wins because my mom wins. That's it. So
You are a very smart man. You are a very smart man. Israel Daniels, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on Against All Odds. Your story is intriguing. It is amazing. And I'm sure that our viewers have learned a thing or two, as I have. And viewers, join me in saying thank you. And please share the story. You just never know who it might inspire. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Israel, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to see all the amazing things that God is going to do with what you're doing here. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you.